would not change that electoral college outcome, raising questions about what the goal of this legal strategy is. And now we turn to an attorney directly in the battle. Jenna Ellis is part of Trump's campaign's legal team. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We've been covering this with great interest. Given that there's no way to change the electoral college outcome, what is the point of the remaining legal strategy now?
Well, of course, there is an opportunity to change the electoral college outcome because that's just a projected winner at the moment. No states have actually put forward their slate of electors, and that vote doesn't even happen until December 14th. So right now we have a cert petition that's pending before the Supreme Court out of Pennsylvania. We just won the opportunity on expedited hearing before the Third Circuit out of Pennsylvania for that lawsuit. And also today we've learned that the Michigan House is going to grant us a hearing, and that is going to be announced on their website. The legislature is very concerned about all of the reports of election integrity issues, and that'll be announced tomorrow morning around 9:30 on their website. So of course,
to be clear, well, I don't think we need the exact the scheduling of it. I understand what you're referencing, but to be clear, those state results are in. Michigan, you mentioned, is certified. Many of these other states have or will certify. What I'm asking you directly is, do you have a legal strategy, or are you just hoping that somehow in some place politicians would override those results? Is that what you're on record advocating? As you know, Sidney Powell said something to that effect and then was quickly removed or accounted as not on the legal team anymore.
Well, let me be clear. Our legal strategy is to make sure that every legal vote counts and is counted fairly and accurately. And we have time, again, until December 14th at least, where those electors for the Electoral College will vote. And so our strategy is to make sure that we continue to challenge all of these false and fraudulent results. I mean, listen, Ari, we have thousands of pages of witness affidavits from 6 states that are talking about election official fraud. These are people who changed the rules. They went against the will of their own state legislators in asking for their own election officials to disregard protocols. I mean, we have people who said that they came in on election day and were told that they already voted by mail-in ballot, and they didn't do that. And so they were only allowed to cast a provision.
Let's look specifically and say, for example, Pennsylvania, because anyone can say anything at a press conference or on television. The biggest problem your team has, and you know this, and I don't mean it pejoratively, but as a legal matter, you continue to lose over and over and over in all the key cases in all the key states. Pennsylvania is the latest one. That's a big state. The judge not only rejecting this, but calling strained legal arguments without merit from your team, unsupported by evidence, haphazardly stitched together. Trump's argument, flatly, the judge says, quote, is not how the Constitution works. Since you mentioned some of your evidence, I'll let you respond, but I want to put a little more evidence because there's context here, and so folks have the full facts in addition to the claims you're making. We could show some Trump campaign cases that are just dead on arrival. This is in Georgia. You lost the effort to block certification. Wall Street Journal, pretty conservative publication, noting you guys just went ahead and dropped your own legal challenge from Trump allies in Arizona. And then in Michigan, you dropped the lawsuit there. And so my question to you, big picture, is not do you have a statement or a claim somewhere from a witness, but what do you do with the fact that everywhere that this has reached a judge, you've been losing in key states, and in some of those I just mentioned, you guys dropped out beforehand. What do you want people to take from this? Here's my big question. What is the point of all this?
Well, the point of this, of course, is to get to fair and accurate results because the election was stolen and President Trump won by a landslide. And how you're mischaracterizing this, I think that your viewers need to understand the truth of this. So let's not forget that President Bush actually lost at every single lower court stage before ultimately Bush v. Gore got to the Supreme Court. The Constitution and the law was applied fairly and accurately, and we have President George W. Bush, not then as the media, your network included, was calling President-elect Al Gore. That's simply not true. So even though we did
number one, you just said you're using the second person and saying you, but I just quoted you a whole range of sources, including the Wall Street Journal. So
let me finish.
Look,
I'm trying to answer.
I think we have to take. I understand, but you made a mistake. Hold on. Take a pause, and I will let you.
Election integrity issues.
I'll let you go again, but we have to take a pause. If you make false statements, you don't just run roughshod, okay? So you made a false accusation that I had to deal with. Hold on, and then I'll let you go again. If you've seen this program, people get their turn. I had Rick Gates on here recently. He got time.
statements because you're accusing us of something that's simply not true. You're attributing losses to us that were not on behalf of the Trump campaign. And you're
I
also
said Trump
saying
campaign and Trump allies. I provided several sources. I'm going to keep moving forward and ask you about another item, and you can answer it or we'll move on. But here's a question for you. You can answer that's factual. What is the largest swing a recount has ever changed a result? What's the largest number of votes that have changed in a recount?
So and not in a recount, but in Bush v. Gore, for example, in Florida, that was over 61,000 votes. The margin in Arizona, for example, is only around, or in Georgia, is only around 14,000. That's very significant. What you're trying to do is piecemeal and break apart each of these different things to say, oh, that's not.
No, I mean, look, I'm trying to make sure people have the numbers. I said recount, and as a good lawyer, I understand you're changing the topic. We'll put up on the screen here so people can get something out of this. I wanted to have you on so we could have a back and forth, but these are the margins that you see. If you look at, for example, Michigan, Pennsylvania, or Georgia, where you're seeking this extra recount, it's 12,000, and the largest change in ballots ever was 355. And so we have about 30 seconds left. I'll give you the final word. When people look at this and say, well, if you're not going to change the vote to the recount, what is the point? That's the real question I don't think has been answered.
Because we've never had in the history of America as many mail-in ballots as we have in this election. Absolutely, recounts can change this election. Our lawsuits are all about election integrity, and we're making sure that we put this together as one big lawsuit to make sure that election integrity is preserved in each of these states. If you look at what happened on the ground in each of these states, there is massive election official fraud by going against the will of the state legislatures to change the election results in those states, and altogether, of course, this is outcome determinative, and every single American should want us to be able to present that evidence in court, which consists of thousands of pages of witnesses that are voters, that are election officials, and that
as you
absolutely
know, the shows end at the end of the hour. That's why I have to fit in the break. Jenna, Ellis, thanks for coming on the beat.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. We're out of time. I'm going to pass on to the readout with Joy Reid, which starts now.